Hey guys, I've got a really great one for you today. This one is about Idoing. This is their latest flagship head unit. It has an amazing 8-core CPU with 8 GB of RAM. It has a 2K high resolution screen and it runs Android 12. Let's check it out. If you're not familiar with Idoing, I can tell you that they have been around for a very long time, making a range of products for different budgets, and they make head units both for specific cars and for any car, like a universal head unit. Now, the significance of this particular Idoing head unit is that it runs Android 12, real Android 12. Now, the reason I say that is because there are lots of Android head unit brands that say they run Android 12, but they're actually spoofing the Android 12. They're running Android 9 or Android 10. But when you go into the settings of the Android head unit, it says Android 12 because they falsified those figures. But the Idoing here is really Android 12. Now, the significance of that is that the majority of the Android head units that run something less than Android 12, you won't be able to install Netflix on them from the Play Store, the Google Play Store. You would have to sideload an older version of Netflix manually, and that's just because Netflix doesn't allow the software to go out for any Android versions before Android 12. There are also other benefits such as split screen, and I'll show you those later on when we've got it plugged into the car. Now, don't forget, I don't get paid to endorse any company or products. Idoing is not paying me for this review. This is more for me to give you my opinion when I'm kind of using it and setting it up. Right, let's get it out of the box. And here it is, and it is not a cheap head unit. You can feel by the weight of it, how it's made, that this is a quality device, and that's absolutely great. Let's have a closer look. Now, as you can see from the front of it, there's nothing spectacular about it. It looks very similar to other Android head units, specifically the ones with 2K screens, because there is nothing on the screen. There's no capacitive touch buttons. The only thing that we have is the mic and the reset button up here, so it's basically identical to other Android head unit brands. However, if we have a look at the back, we start to see some special things. So we have the main loom entry point here, we have the antenna FM input here, we have various other connectors which I'll go into in a minute, a built-in Wi-Fi antenna here, the GPS antenna connector here, 2 4G data connection antennas here, and then we have a SPDIF optical digital output. Now, SPDIF digital outputs are great because it's kind of a lossless connection to an amplifier. If you are using the RCAs, then they're made of copper and you can get electrical interference that comes through them if they're not shielded enough, whereas a digital connection is optical. It's a light that goes through a cable, and it's the best possible connection. Now, obviously, you would need an amplifier that is capable of taking an optical connection, but you only really get these connections on premium head units, so it's really great that Idoing have included it with this head unit. And then we have HDMI. The whole point of having a video out on your head unit is so that you can send video to rear monitors that you might have on the headrest in the back, you know, for the kids. And most Android head units have RCA video output, so that's the yellow, white and red composite video out connectors that you used to get on TVs and monitors many years ago. And today, most monitors have HDMI for HD video, and that is so important that if you want to have video out on an Android head unit, it should be HDMI and not RCA. And I can count on one hand how many Android head units actually have a HDMI on the back of them, so that is a really premium connection as well. Right, let's see what else is in the box. So we have some instruction manuals, some plastic removal tools to help you fit it in the car, an external microphone, 2 4G antennas for the data connection, the GPS antenna, 3 USB ports, the main loom here, a reverse camera input. We have a loom here which has the front right and front left and subwoofer RCAs. We have a front video input for a front camera, and then we have auxiliary input video and audio, and then the external mic entry point here as well. Also on this loom you can put a 4G SIM card. And lastly we have this loom which has the rear right and rear left and a center output. So this head unit actually has 6 channels of RCA output: front left, front right, rear right, center and subwoofer. And then very interestingly on this loom we also have a coax digital output. So not only does this head unit have the optical digital SPDIF output, it also has coax digital SPDIF output as well, which is awesome. And then we have advanced CAN bus wires here as well, so that's CAN TX and CAN RX. And that means that this head unit can interact with things like your climate controls and other aspects of your car's digital network, if your car's compatible with that. Right, it's time. Let's go and stick it in the car and see what this thing is like. Right, we're in my studio car and the head unit is now installed. So let's turn it on and see how long it takes to boot up. Okay, that was quite literally less than a second. So that was a hot boot. It's difficult for me to show you how long a cold boot takes to boot up, but it is quick. It's less than 20 seconds for it to cold boot. Anyway, I digress. So it's booted up now and we're looking at the dashboard. Now before we start talking about the dashboard, let's talk about the screen that's on this Idoing head unit. So it is actually a QLED screen, and what that basically means is it's got a really good contrast ratio, and you can see that just by the depth of the blacks on the screen. It does actually look really sharp and vivid, and the videos look great as well, but I'll show you that a little bit later. But this is actually a 2K screen, so it's 1200p, and to put that into perspective, and most Android head units run at somewhere between 600p or 720p, with the best ones running at about 1080p, and this is 1200p, so this is like all the way up there. Sometimes the issue with the 1200p 2K screens is that the resolution is so high that everything looks really small on the screen, and that's not really an ideal situation when you're driving, because you want to be able to see what's on the screen without having to focus on small text. But what Idoing have done is they have adjusted the DPI so that things on the screen are adequately sized. So even though you get that 2K 1200p high resolution screen, you're not getting tiny icons. Anyway, I digress. So this is the dashboard, and as you can see, it's quite nice to look at. What they've done is they've given you a widget here. This widget will play local music. If you push this button here, then it goes to Bluetooth control, so you can control the tracks and you can see which track you're playing from your phone if you just want to use standard Bluetooth. And then this last one here is the radio, and it allows you to listen to the radio. I'll show you the radio later. Over here we have a selection of applications, and you can change what applications are shown on here just by pushing and holding it, and then you can select something else. And then this button here allows you to go into the other applications, which I'll show you in a moment. There's this button down here which will go to your phone list. So if I was to share my contacts from my phone, it's going to list them all here, and it will allow you to make phone calls directly from this point as well, which is great. And then if we slide, you get some more information. So what we have here is speeds, a trip timer, we've got a compass, and we've got some other details here like the altitude that we're currently at and the latitude and longitude. It's giving you some information, which would be pretty cool if you were driving a 4x4, for example. And then on the left hand side here, you got the time and date as usual, and then you have a shortcut to navigation here, and then this button again takes you to the applications. So the FM radio is here, and as you can see, the app is pretty basic. You can tune it by pushing these two buttons here. You can skip between presets with these buttons, and that's pretty much it. I know that I'm listening to Heart FM at the moment because it does say Heart here, but now this is one of my main bugbears when it comes to the design and development of FM software. The main thing that people like to see is not the frequency of the radio station, it is the name of the station. It is quite annoying to me that Idoing in this particular case have not made the name of the radio station, the RDS, the biggest thing on here. And the other thing is these presets, they have all been preset by myself. This is Heart, I've got a Classic FM here, this is Radio 1. But again, you can see what it is here, but the name of the radio station has not been inputted into any of the presets here. Like, you're just guessing, like unless you know the actual frequencies of your radio station by heart, then yeah, it's annoying. And the same here, like this is the little widget that we have on the main dashboard, which is for the radio station. And again, this doesn't even tell you the name of the station. RDS is just not functional at all in this widget. It's just the frequency, and that is unfortunate. So this is an Android head unit, and you can install pretty much whatever you want onto it, because that's the point of an Android head unit. And then of course you've got the video stuff, so YouTube, Netflix, all of this stuff works absolutely fine on this head unit, and that's what makes it absolutely fantastic. Now, on the subject of videos and Netflix, YouTube, etc., I wanted to talk a little bit about the HDMI port that's on the back of it, because this has a party trick which is only available on very, very few Android head units. It is the ability to watch something else on a second screen. Say for example the kids are in the back and they want to watch a Netflix show, but you need to navigate up front. You can send Netflix to the rear screens and you can watch your navigation on your own screen. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So this is one of the monitors that I use for recording videos. It's just a straight 1080p monitor. So I'm going to plug in the HDMI from the Idoing like this. And in a minute you should see, there we go, so now it's duplicating exactly what's on the screen. So if I open Netflix and I just play something, let's say Rick and Morty. So if I just pull down from the top and I press this button here, you can see that I've got my screen back on my Idoing, but I'm still watching Rick and Morty on the external monitor. And that's great because now I can basically go into, say, Waze, and I can navigate on this screen whilst watching Netflix on this screen, and that is amazing. Like it really is awesome stuff. I mean, it doesn't even need to be monitors in the back. I mean, I can just think about all of the interesting customized internal stuff that you can do with something like this. It's awesome. Now obviously this is not a touch screen, so you're not going to be able to control any of this. As a driver, you're still in control of everything. So, you know, if you wanted to change the episode or turn this off, what you need to do is open Netflix on the main screen. It will create a mirror again, and then you can turn it off. So that is ultimately how this works, and I think that's pretty damn awesome. I want to show you one of the other party tricks of these Android 12 devices, and that is split screen, and that allows you to do two things at once on one screen. So for example, if I open Spotify and then I can press the split screen button here, and as you can see, it has split the screen between Google Maps and Spotify, the full application on both. These are not the cut down versions that you get with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. They are the full installed applications that you are sharing on this 1200p screen, which is awesome. And then you can opt to slide this bar and go all the way into navigation, or you can go all the way into Spotify if you prefer it as well. So the split screen functionality is an awesome party trick as well. Right, let's talk about the speed of the Idoing. So it uses a QCM6125 Qualcomm 8-core CPU. You know it has 8 GB of RAM as well on the Android 12 software. Let's put it to the test. Everyday apps, so we're going to use Spotify and Waze, and we're simply going to see how long they take to boot on this device. Starting with Waze. Yeah, I mean, that was a cold boot of Waze. It was shut down before first boot, and that took what, 3-4 seconds to come up. That's awesome. So that was great. Right, let's try Spotify. Yeah, I mean, there's no waiting time. Like, if you compare this to the cheap Android head units, which are just so tedious with the amount of time that you have to wait for these apps to load, you know, more than 14 seconds for some of these Android head units to load Spotify. This was practically instantaneous, 3-4 seconds for it to boot fully. Really, really awesome stuff. I mean, you're not going to be waiting for it. You're certainly not going to need to worry about running multiple apps at the same time, because with the 8 cores and the 8 gigs of RAM, the specs are absolutely amazing. I know a lot of you are very, very interested in Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so we're going to look at that now. Now, the only thing that you need to do to connect to Android Auto or to Apple CarPlay is connect your phone via Bluetooth to this head unit, and that is it. Everything else is automatic and it does everything fine. Now, I've already connected my Android phone to this, so I'm going to go into Z-Link 5. Now, Z-Link 5 will open automatically when you connect your phone via Bluetooth, but I've already done that, so I'm just showing you what it is now. And what we have here is the newest version of Android Auto and a very, very good use of split screen on this display as well. It works fine. So as you can see, it is a good experience from the standpoint that this screen is a very high quality from a contrast perspective. Right, let's look at Apple CarPlay. I'm going to do settings, Bluetooth, QZD, Android. You see Z-Link 5 has already started. My phone says use CarPlay. And there we go. And as you can see, it is making use of the higher resolution of the screen, which is why you have 5 icons or 10 icons, as you can see here, instead of the usual 4 or 8. Really good contrast ratio on this QLED screen, so all the buttons look really, really good. And yeah, it's really nice from a Apple CarPlay perspective as well. And that's the same with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. If you get in the car, so your phone is going to automatically connect to the head unit via Bluetooth, and this is going to load up Android Auto and Apple CarPlay straight away as soon as you get in the car wirelessly. All right, so let's talk about sound quality and control. The Idoing has a piece of software called Mixer, which is this app here, and this is what the dashboard for the sound quality. So we've got gain adjustment, sound effect, crossover, fade and balance, scenes, delay. And then along the bottom here we have a DTS switch, so obviously they're quite proud of the fact that this is DTS compatible because it says it right in the center there. Which just gives it a more sparse kind of feel. And it does sound good actually with the DTS on. Virtual center is something that the majority of you will probably want, because the center speaker, this Saab does actually have a center speaker as well, but it isn't separated from the other speakers. This car has front left, front right, rear left and rear right, like most cars have. The center speaker is not on a separate channel. So what this does is it gives you a virtual center and creates the kind of fake center speaker. If you wanted to use a real center speaker, you could do that, because this head unit does actually have an RCA output for a center speaker, but you would have to wire that in manually. Anyway, that's what that's for. And along the bottom we have how many channels of sound that we're dealing with here. Now this car, as I say, has 4 channels of sound, so I've got it set to 4. If you have a subwoofer, it would be 4.1, because the 0.1 would be a subwoofer, separate subwoofer, and 5.1 would be if you have that center channel wired in separately as well. Here on 5.1 you would actually have true surround sound, 5 speakers plus subwoofer. So if you were watching a movie on Netflix, this would decode into 5.1 channels of surround sound. You would get proper surround sound from this unit, and that is cool. But for the purposes of my test, I only have 4 channels of sound. It's set to 4 channels. That's it. Right, let's start with gain adjustment. So gain adjustment is to control the individual volumes of the specific speakers, and that brings us to sound effect. Now at the moment it's on system sound. System sound's like the easiest setting, because you can select one of these presets, and they're all presets for the graphic equalizer, so you can see if there's one that you like the sound of. I would just say that I don't like any of these, but that's because I like to fine-tune the audio, and most premium Android head units give you really good control over your sound, so you don't need to use a preset. So we go into simple mode. Simple mode it's called, and this, what we're looking at here, is the graphic equalizer, the enormous graphic equalizer. And I don't know how, it's got like 50 different frequencies that you have the ability to control across the screen here. And it's not a simple matter of like making a wave with your finger or something like that to sort of give yourself a kind of sound that you want to try out. It's actually quite annoying how you have to do this. So you select a specific frequency, and then you can raise it up, but it just takes ages to do, and then you might make a mistake because the dots are so close together, because the screen's so high resolution. Ultimately, it is my opinion that this is just crazy overkill. I'm not someone who shies against having graphic equalizer, which has lots and lots of options, but they need to be user friendly. And if you're going to force people to use it, and you are forced to use it, because if you don't like the system sounds, the only thing you can do is use simple mode, and then you have to, you mess about with this. Oh, and I forgot the other thing, because this is kind of based on the joying systems. It's similar to the joyings, although the joying is much easier to use from this standpoint. But front left and front right, Like these controls are only for the front left and front right speakers, not the rears, because the rears have their own graphic equalizer. And again, that's good from a control perspective. If you have different speakers installed in the back of the car than you do on the front, and in actual fact this car has different speakers in the back, so I probably do want them to sound different. But then I've got a like 50 band graphic equalizer that I have to try to set the sound up on, and that's a ball ache. I mean, it's a ball ache. And then of course you got center and subwoofers if you have those as well, which I don't in this particular car. So if I wanted to make this sound good, I would have to go through each one until I get the sound that I want. I will say that this level of control will mean that you will likely be able to get it sounding exactly as you want. That's simple mode. Complex mode. So complex mode is basically the same thing, but just for individual speakers. So this 50 band graphic equalizer is just for the front left speaker. Then you've got front right, rear left, rear right, center, and sub controlled completely separately. Unless you have a blown speaker or different brands of speaker on left and right, I just don't see the requirement to need this. Simple mode would be a lot better to deal with. Oh, and just so you know, if you wanted, you select one of these and then you can actually just use these buttons here. You don't need to like press it on here, you can just do this. But again, it's just, you have to listen to music while you're doing it, make sure that you've got that good sound. It's just really difficult. Now there's two things that I would have preferred Idoing to have done in this software to make it more user friendly. The first is the ability to just move your finger in a wave and it automatically adjusts all of those frequencies based on your finger. That would have been amazing, and some head units do that. And the second thing is the presets and simple mode are completely separate, and by that I mean if I was to select a preset on any other head unit or most other head units, that preset would be a preset of the graphic equalizer. So if I go to rock, it would show me the pattern of frequency that rock would have, and then if I wanted to I could just adjust it. But unfortunately this is completely detached. If you choose rock and then you go to simple mode, it cuts off the rock and you need to then design your own. So it doesn't help you. There's absolutely no helpful user-friendly control on this. Again, this is just my perception of how it's designed. The fact of the matter is it's giving you crazy amounts of control, and it does sound good. I will say as well, my perception of the audio coming from this unit, from the DSP and the inbuilt DAC are good. I just wish that it was more user-friendly. Anyway, moving on. So crossover. So you've got front high and low pass filter, rear high and low pass filters, the center high and low, and then the subwoofer control here as well. You can choose your frequencies and you can choose your slope, very similar to the graphic equalizer. Fade and balance is just that. It's the ability to fade and balance the audio like every head unit in existence. Scenes, these are kind of like different audio effects. So you've got music mode, dedicated mode, cinema mode, mono mode, and whatever this is, LCRS, single surround mode. So it just gives a slight difference to the audio depending on the one that you choose. So the best thing to do is have a track playing in the background and select one of these and see if you like the way it's making it sound, because I do like, I kind of like dedicated mode as well. That kind of sounded quite good to me as well. But that's something that you're going to need to experiment with. Delay just gives you the ability to create very small delays between the speakers so that you can get that sound that you're looking for, and then return takes you back to the main sound dashboard. Yeah, it has a lot of control. It's a professional level of control of audio. I just think that it could be designed from a user interface a bit better, but that's my perception. But yeah, it's great. Other than that, it is really, really good. And that's pretty much it for this Idoing head unit. Great specifications, great screen, great features and very, very interestingly complicated audio setup as well. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it is an awesome head unit. If I've missed anything, please do ask in the comment section below. And if you like this kind of content, please do subscribe to my channel, because there's a ton of additional head units and AI boxes and projectors and all sorts of other things coming up very soon.